we're gonna go to the furthest point of our property here. Still got excellent signal strength. Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today in this video, I'm going to be checking out the NETGEAR Orbi 970 series. This is their Wi-Fi 7 mesh network system. NETGEAR is partnering with me on today's video, but I want you to know that any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this product or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Take a look at the retail box and packaging. They walk you through the key tech specs right on the front of the box. You'll see that Wi-Fi 7 is 2.4 times faster than Wi-Fi 6. This gives you whole house coverage with this mesh system up to 6,000 square feet. And the feature I'm most excited about, the 10 gig networking. This has internet and LAN ports that support 10 gig. Moving right along, you'll see some additional information about Wi-Fi 7 on the side. And we have some additional product info on the back of the box. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and see what's inside. Here are all the contents. First up, we have our product literature consisting of 1 year of protection included for NETGEAR Armor. Next, we have our setup guide for the NETGEAR Orbi app, as well as our device information, contents, overview, customer service, and contact information on the back side. Next, you'll find that we have one included Ethernet cable, very slim. And then 2 identical power supplies right here with barrel connector. You'll see all the tech specs on the power supply right there. And then last but not least, we have the router and the satellite unit. Let's go ahead, let's look at those in more detail. Looking at the units up close, we'll start with the router here. You'll see power plug, 10 gig internet, 10 gig Ethernet, 4 additional 2.5 gig ports. Got our reset button in there if we need to reset everything, and our sync button. Here's a look at the very top. We'll flip it over to the very bottom. I did put some tape on here to block the network information, but they have everything printed for you with the QR code right there in the bottom. You'll see some screws here too, depending on the mounting option you want to go with this system. You'll have some room to work with there. Let me give you the side profile. Here's a look at the very front. Again, we have our router information right there blocked off with tape. The tape is not included. Orbi's logo and branding. Really a cool design for this unit. Really liking how everything looks. And then the satellite's going to follow a very similar form factor here. Power plug, 10 gig Ethernet, 2 additional 2.5 gig ports, reset and sync button there. Look at it from the top. We'll do that side profile, Orbi logo and branding there. And then same thing on the very bottom. Our network information again printed for you. And we got some screw options there on the bottom too, with our threaded connectors. Having them side by side, nearly identical, if not identical, form factor there. The biggest giveaway is going to be the different ports on the back or the router sticker on the front. Now let's go ahead, let's plug everything in, power it up, and try it out. All right, so we have the units plugged in, powered on, and set up within the NETGEAR Orbi app. I want to show you how we configured everything. Very simple and straightforward. Power plug and our internet coming in from our ISP. My whole studio here is 10 gig Ethernet with Cat 6A cable. So we have our internet plugged in right there, all set and ready to go, and multiple ports to use for other devices. Our satellite unit, you'll see right here, is plugged in and ready to go. Now let's look at the NETGEAR app. Setup was simple and straightforward. Just takes a couple of minutes as everything needs to update, that sort of thing. But very easy, scan the QR code and you're off to the races. So this is what it'll look like once you have it set up. A nice main home screen here, showing our internet's online, 1 of 1 satellites. We have a device manager here so we can load that. You'll see our connected devices. And then we can go back. Security option right here. So you'll see when that loads, our score, when our armor protection expires. You can learn more all about those features there. Then we have our internet speeds. This is great, so we can conduct speed tests. You'll see the test we got right here. Really, really impressive here. That's actually as fast, if not faster, than my ISP. So we have fiber to the house, 1 gig, and look at those scores right there for us. And we can view our history as well. Nice that we have the built-in speed test there to make sure everything's up and running and working. Parental controls, if you want to set up some kids' profiles and things like that, you can add those down below, as well as unlock premium if you're interested. Then we can view our network map, how we have it configured. We have some Wi-Fi settings here, so you can see your SSID, you can share that. Then we have our guest Wi-Fi, we can turn that on to enable if we want. And then further down, we have our traffic meter. So you can see the traffic, total and averages. And then top left-hand corner, we have some additional settings here. So we can select settings and we can learn more about our router, Wi-Fi security, and anywhere access. We can manage our account, subscriptions, more from NETGEAR, support, about, and we can add multiple satellites if you want to get that perfect coverage around your house, maybe one on each floor, things like that. Set up a new system, and we can reboot everything right from our phone with their app. If you're looking for some more advanced features, well, from your web browser connected to the network, you can enter this address up at the top, and you'll be able to sign in and get access to this screen for your network, where we have our basic and advanced features here. We're not going to dive into any specific features per se. I just want to give you a quick overview of all the settings and options that you have available right at your fingertips. So first up, on the left-hand side, we have the same menu here as we do with the nice tiles and icons. So we can select each of these. So first up, we have our internet, and you'll be able to see what you're able to configure here. You can test, cancel, or apply. Then we have our wireless options, same thing. Cancel and apply. But pick and choose what you want. Attach devices, we can view all those right here. Guest network, we can enable that and set it up. And then we can add our Orbi satellites. If you want to pick up another satellite or two, you can do that right here. They show you how to position it to maximize your coverage. I really like those graphics. It's great. You want some overlap too between them, right? So you can follow those instructions. So that's your basic settings. That's going to be more of what you see in the app. But now we have some advanced settings right here. You can really dive in depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So we got our router info, internet port. We can show stats, connection status. We can reboot the router from here. Wireless settings, main network, guest network, all of that right there. And then we have our setup options. So internet setup right there, wireless setup, guest network. We've seen those features, but now we have our WAN setup, LAN setup, speed test. We can do our speed test right here. Device name, we can view our device name. And then we have our next option, that's going to be security. Here's our access controls. Then administration. So router status, router logs, attached devices. I mean, you're seeing some of the same stuff repeated, no big deal. Backup settings, set a password, NTP settings, firmware updates. And then we have our advanced options right here. So wireless settings, router AP mode, so you can choose what you want it to do. Port forwarding, dynamic DNS, VPN services, static routes, add, edit, delete those as needed, web service management, UPnP, IPv6, traffic meter, and our VLAN bridge settings right here if you want to enable that. So look at all the options you have from the advanced section here. And again, if you're not seeing what you want in the basics, go ahead, give that a click, and hopefully you can find exactly what you're looking for that you need to configure for your own network. A couple of things to discuss before we dive into the performance of this NETGEAR Orbi. So all these findings are just my own personal experience within my own network and setup, so your mileage will vary. Just keep that in mind. We have fiber coming into the studio, and our current ISP speeds are 1 gig down and 500 up. So keep that in mind with all of our tests here. Also, for this particular test, we're swapping out our old Asus Wi-Fi 6 router for our NETGEAR Orbi. We'll be using the same PC with an MSI X570 motherboard that has a Wi-Fi 6 adapter. Now keep in mind, this is Wi-Fi 7, but Wi-Fi 7 is still so new. It's going to take a while for consumer products and tech to become available and affordable with that standard and spec. So you'll have probably many, many years, maybe even a decade or more, of really fast, reliable, and enjoyable speeds with a system like this. So rest assured, if you don't have Wi-Fi 7 now, don't worry, future phone upgrades, computer upgrades, things like that, you'll start to see that become more saturated in the market today, like Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E. You get the idea. So first up, we're looking at some of our speed tests with our ISP on both of those routers. So first one you're seeing, 800 down, 535 up. That's going to be on our Asus Wi-Fi 6 router. Those are great speeds. I'm really happy with that. I think most people out there would too, especially when you consider that that's Wi-Fi, right? That's not a hardwired. I have a 10 gig network connection locally, and that's what we would see with that too, which is pretty impressive. But moving right along, we still got a boost with this particular system, which is great, and hopefully you would as well, because again, you have multiple satellites and you can add more, so hopefully the coverage is even better around your house. You're really saturating every room, you know, nook and cranny, whatever it may be, with your network, so be able to get those faster speeds consistently and in more places. So we got 935 down and 547 up. So that's already a win, and we're just getting started. Now we're going to look at iPerf to see how it does. We'll be testing it on our iPhone right here. Currently, first up, you're seeing the upload results for our Asus Wi-Fi 6 router. We'll start that one again, but we'll probably average around that 30 megabit per second. Always starts a little bit better here, and you'll see it'll die off some. Our minimum around that 6 or 7, averaging again in the mid-30s. Peaked at almost 60. The first test we peaked at 67. Really dropped there though, dropped down to 1. So this average is going to be even worse on our network. But you'll get the idea here. Say we average about 28 up. Now let's start with the download. Just takes a couple more seconds here. Get a good feel for what you could expect. Peaked at 88 so far. Minimum 47. Looks like we're going to average right around the mid-60s. So right at 65 megabits per second for our download. Now let's try it with our NETGEAR router. So we've swapped over our connection here, and take a look at the results. We're back to upload here. 400 megabits per second. Phenomenal. Really, really fast. Again, same phone. We just swapped networks here. So we're averaging right around the 400 mark. But really impressive there. Average 404 min, 371 max, 417. Now let's try out the download. Fantastic seeing these speeds from our iPhone SE 2020. Going to average probably in the 480 range. Looks like 485, 486 right now. Low being 425. We peaked at 509. Average 490. Awesome. Now, before some of you get mad and you call me out for saying, hey, David, this isn't a fair test because this is right next to you and the other one, we don't know where the Asus router is. Well, you're correct. So great for being that passionate. But I want to let you know I did test it out both ways. You can see the results right here when I had my phone literally within the same distance to the Asus router as we do with the NETGEAR router. So you're seeing our upload become 49 megabits per second versus 35. So we had a little bit of movement up, but I wouldn't say it was pretty substantial. Same can be said for the download as well. Instead of 65, we're now at 74 megabits per second for our average. A little bit better, but not anywhere near what we're seeing with this guy. Now, don't think I forgot about you Android people. Okay, well, I kind of did, but this is the Google Pixel 7 Pro. This has Wi-Fi 6E. That's going to be the fastest mobile device I have lying around the studio here. So we could check it out another way using iPerf 3 as well. This test is going to be a little bit different here. You'll see what we do is we basically just refresh this, and you'll see our bandwidth there, 13 gigabits per second. We'll refresh it again, 6, 15. We'll just do a couple of those, 12.4. I wish we had a running average here, but you'll see it's pretty high, right? Anywhere between 6 and 13 we're seeing. So we could just call it, I don't know, 10 if you wanted, 9 or 10 to get a feel for it that way. And this is currently connected to our Asus Wi-Fi 6 network with our Pixel 7 Pro. But now let's try it out with our NETGEAR network. And yes, just like the iPhone, if you're wondering, when I had it directly next to the router, we were seeing just about the exact same data. Now we're connected to our NETGEAR network. Look at those results. Very similar, looking good. Sometimes it seems like we have more middle results here, the 10, 11, 12s, and I say that and we get a lower one. But bandwidth-wise, you're seeing anywhere between 6 and 13. I think for this, yeah, there's 18 again. So very similar performance to our Asus Wi-Fi 6, but again, that's because we have our Wi-Fi 6E device here with our Google Pixel 7 Pro. So at the end of the day, it'll vary drastically depending on which type of device you're using. And if you have Wi-Fi 7, the latest and greatest standards, you can expect to see the best speeds, obviously. I'm not a network engineer, so I hope some of this data was helpful to you to be able to decide for yourself, is it going to work for you, what you're going to expect realistically in your environment. Now let's go ahead, let's do a couple more tests. Now you're seeing iPerf 3 results from computer to computer. So we're now transferring data between two desktop PCs over our Asus Wi-Fi 6 network connected via the Wi-Fi 6 on this MSI motherboard and the Wi-Fi 6E on our Asus motherboard. You'll see the results here with our transfers and our bandwidth. Now let's do that same test again on our NETGEAR network. All right, now you're seeing our iPerf 3 results for our NETGEAR router here. When I study back the data, you'll notice basically we're getting the same thing. So these values up here, this is going to be our Asus network. So basically 250s, 260s transfers, 220 for bandwidth, and then down here 260s for transfers, 280s, and then bandwidth's going to be 220 or 230. So maybe a smidge higher, but I'm thinking that this has more to do with the computers and their limitations versus obviously the NETGEAR or even the Asus router at that point. Now it's time for my favorite test. We have our hardwired 10 gig connection right here. So we have our Ethernet cable, it's Cat 6A. Definitely use Cat 6 or beyond for this test. 5E is going to give you your 1 gigabit speeds, but we have a 10 gigabit network, so you want to take advantage of that. You'll see that the weakest link will be your fastest speed in your network. So in our case, Cat 6A to this 10 gig port, to a direct connection on our 10 gig port on our motherboard. The rest of my network, when we have it wired all throughout the studio here, we have a 10 gig patch panel, we have 10 gig switches, and the results that you're seeing on screen, that is what we see here with other 10 gig pieces of equipment. So that's well within range for what we should expect with our current configuration and setup. We're getting about 7.7 gigabits per second for our bandwidth on our network. And again, in this case, that's direct connected from our router directly to our computer, and we're testing that with another computer on the network. So again, you're only as fast as your weakest link, and it's great to report back that this is working well within its spec, as we can see with my network. While we're on the topic of 10 gig, a feature that got me really excited with this particular system is the ability to have 10 gig backhaul. Yeah, you heard me correctly. So On our satellite unit here, we have that 10 gig Ethernet port. So we can literally take our 10 gig cable, connect it from our router and connect it directly here. And now they're going to communicate over that 10 gig line. By default, you just plug it in, it connects right to the router. And by default, if you plug in your 10 gig cable to here, it's also going to communicate with the router itself. So looking at the app again, you'll see our configuration of our satellite right here. And once it loads, we'll go to the details and you'll see currently it's connected with 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz. Now watch what happens when we connect it with our 10 gig cable. 10 gigs plugged in on that side. Now we're gonna plug it in on this side. Friendly reminder again, make sure you're using at a minimum a Cat 6 cable. We have our LED light on the front of the unit. That's gonna start blinking right now. You might have to wait maybe 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less, and eventually this light will turn a bluish color and then it'll go off. It will do all this automatically for you. There's nothing you have to do. Just plug it in and wait a couple of minutes and return and enjoy having that 10 gig connection on the back end. So it didn't even take 2 minutes for our LED light to turn blue. That's your indicator though to know that everything has successfully been set up. That light will stay on for 3 minutes, then shut off. But your satellite is all good to go with it being synced up via the wire and your 10 gig on the back. So pretty cool. We have that indicator there. It'll eventually, like I said, shut off after about 3 minutes, but they give you a visual confirmation right there so you know that everything's good to go. But we didn't have to touch anything else. It's all done automatically. Back in the network map, let's look at the satellite again to see the status change. Just to confirm if we don't trust the light for whatever reason, go to details, and now our connection type has changed back to wired. It's time for a field trip so we can test out the signal strength of our new network here with our Orbi 970 series. So we're right next to the router in our main studio space. The signal strength is excellent. We're getting fantastic results, as you would expect being so close to the router. But let's go on a quick tour here. We'll go through multiple rooms and we'll watch as that fluctuates in real time depending on where we're at. We're going to shut doors, things like that, to give you a realistic look into what you can expect around your place. So we'll go to the furthest corner over here and we'll see what we're dealing with. All right, that's looking pretty good as well, still in that excellent range. So we're a door, a wall away. Now we'll move to the other furthest point in the room, another wall section away. We got more concrete, should have more interference over here. Not bad though, signal's looking good. Keep moving along, we'll head to the upstairs now. We're upstairs now. Let's see how everything's looking. We're still connected to the main unit right here for our router. So we'll go to the furthest point of our studio space this way. We'll tuck into the corner here. Still got the excellent result. Great to see. Full coverage. Now we'll move around here. We'll go into the kitchen. Kitchen's looking good. Still have the excellent range. Now what's interesting is we're really close to our satellite here, so we should see even better speeds as it eventually switches to our satellite. All right, now you'll see we have our AP roaming right there, so we are connected to the satellite unit behind me here. Take a look at our signal strength. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Pretty sweet. So let's keep walking up here. Now I did test it with the router still connected. It was always excellent here. So in our case, with basically 2,400 square feet, we could get away with just the router. It's that good of coverage. But we'll go to our furthest spot away over here with the door shut, and you'll see how everything is staying connected. We've never left the excellent range for our signal strength. Now we're taking it to the extreme. We're outside now. We're gonna go to the furthest point of our property here. Still got excellent signal strength. All right, so we're at that point. And look at that, everything's still working great. Just for fun, now we're gonna do a speed test out here and then we'll do one back inside. right now we're still connected to the access point that is upstairs near the kitchen. All right, the test is running right now. Look at this, guys. This is amazing. Awesome or very good scores. That's insane. So what's nice is it really unlocks the potential. If you want to build out a smart home, maybe you want some wireless security cameras, especially if you want like a 2K or a 4K camera and you want to have them posted up around your property. This is going to unlock that potential to make sure that you have plenty of signal strength without anything else needed. So pretty nifty there. Fantastic speeds. Less than 1% of other users achieve that within this app. And again, we're outside of our house, couple of rooms away, concrete, and then again, plenty of space out here. So pretty sweet that we're seeing those results that far away from our router or even the satellite. Now we're testing it one more time inside, standing right next to the satellite unit, just to get a feel for what we can expect, like maximum performance-wise versus what we were looking for outside. But I can't believe those results outside. So good for how far away we were from this unit. Count me impressed with the speeds. And obviously indoors too, it's blazing fast. After using our NETGEAR 970 series, let me share with you some pros and cons from my own personal findings. So first up, let's talk about the pros. This is going to be future-proofing for you for many years to come. Wi-Fi 7 standard, 10 gig networking, tons of network ports, multiple 10 gig ports, and all the other ports are 2.5 gigs. So I love seeing consumer, I know this is really more enthusiast grade hardware, but consumer enthusiast grade hardware with enterprise features. I love when that trickles down, especially for me, right? This fits me perfectly because I have a 10 gig network here in the studio, so everything plays really nicely together. Super simple install. I want to talk about that for a minute. This is truly plug and play, and then we have an iOS or Android app you can use, and you can get additional features connecting to it from a web browser. Also, one of the settings you have in here is a separate IoT network that you can enable for all of your smart home devices. So really clever designs and features that we get with this system, not only software, but I mean, I like the design and look of it too, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Wi-Fi coverage is great, speeds are great, no issues there. Obviously, you can expand this out with multiple satellite units that will just boost any coverage issues you may have or anything like that. But I'd be surprised for some of you out there that you would need even more than just the router, but having the satellite units, one on each floor, maybe opposite ends of the house, things like that, right? Always nice that you can fall back on that to expand it at a later date. Now, some of the things I want to see improved, let's talk about the cons. The first one, probably the biggest one, is for having cutting edge technology, you're going to pay a hefty price for it. So as an early adopter, you are paying for this technology. So just keep that in mind. You're paying a premium with this. Also, for me personally, I still have a lot of Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E devices. I don't have a ton of Wi-Fi 7 devices. In fact, as I looked around, I don't have any Wi-Fi 7 devices yet. So you might be in a very similar boat. It's trickling down though with smartphones, motherboards, all that good stuff. So in a couple of years' time, at the most, we'll start seeing that be very standard and common, and you will already be ready for it with the latest and greatest system. But finding Wi-Fi 7 devices or choosing to get this and then having to upgrade some of your devices, phones, TVs, computers, that would just be an additional cost that you would have to incur. Also, with this particular unit, they do give us a 1-year subscription to their NETGEAR Armor security service, but after that, now you have incurring monthly costs if you want to keep that service enabled. Also, talking about monthly fees, there are basic parental controls, but you will have to pay an additional monthly fee if you want more advanced parental controls like website monitoring, website filtering, and device usage statistics, among a couple other things. So that's what you really need to know about this. It's really easy to set up and it works great, but there are some hidden costs in the future if you want to continue some of those monthly subscriptions or you want access to additional features like more advanced parental controls. Cutting edge, Wi-Fi 7, some of the latest and greatest out there with 10 gig networking. All of that can be yours with the NETGEAR Orbi 970 series Wi-Fi 7 mesh kit.